Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventure.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster. Welcome back. This is the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And we have a special guest with you today who is a Cherokee native from North Carolina. And he has recently been an ultra marathoner, but he's a very good marathoner. He has some pretty quick times. So we're going to introduce Kallup McCoy. So Kallup, if you don't care, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got into running.
Shio Nagata. Hello, everybody. My name's Kallup McCoy II, and I'm from Cherokee, North Carolina, from the Birdtown community. And I'm 38 years old, got 2 sons, a wife, a couple dogs. I'm a full-time running coach. Just tell everybody a little bit about myself before I hop into my story. And I got into running, man, honestly, I think it was just something I needed for survival, man. I was in a really, really dark place in my life for a long time, which we'll get into that here in a few minutes. But I got into running back in 2017. I struggled with addiction for over 15 years to multiple substances. I mean, anything that you can think of, I did it, and ultimately it was like smoking crack, snorting cocaine, shooting meth, shooting heroin, fentanyl, all those things. But the last like 5 or 6 years, I was really bad off on the needle and overdosing. Had to be brought back on several different occasions with Narcan, and God got a hold of me when I was locked up in jail in 2017 and transformed my mind, my perspective on life. And I started to work out while I was locked up in jail and just moving my body. Started falling in love with movement. It was giving me that same rush, as endorphins, that high that I was missing from the drugs and everything. And so I kind of really leaned into that while I was doing my time. And I got out of jail August of 2017, and I had a clean slate starting over. And I went and watched a YouTube video pretty early on, David Goggins, and he was getting me fired up. And so I was like, man, what the hell am I doing with my life? I've been living, like a life of just addiction and a slave to my passions and pleasures and to my trauma, and it's time that I need to start challenging myself in new ways. And so almost immediately, like within a week after coming out of this 15-year addiction, serving 6 months of jail time, getting out, within a week, I signed up for an Ironman 70.3. I didn't do any swimming. I borrowed a bike. I ran a half a mile, and I show up at this race. And, man, I was so scared. Like I didn't know. I was just naive to like what it was, which honestly was probably a good thing looking back, because if I would have known just the effort, the distance and everything and what it really took, then I probably would have talked myself out of it.
Oh, yeah.
But, I show up on the start line. Crazy story. I'm the first wave in the water. There's 1,800 competitors with me, right? Gun goes off. We got this 1.2 mile swim. It was the beach to battleship in Wilmington. And I shit you not, I was the last person out of the water. So 1,700 plus people passed me in the swim, kicking me in the head, I was freaking out. I was doing good for like the first 100 meters. And then I realized like, I'm going to drown. Like I'm going to die out here. Like, I don't know how I'm going to swim. So I just rolled over on my back and backstroke the entire swim. But I fought. I kept putting one foot in front of the other. I remembered all the shit that I'd overcome in my life, all the things I'd been through. And I realized like, this is nothing in comparison to that. If this is the hardest thing that I have to face, I'm doing okay. And so I just kept that perspective, man, and just knocking out the miles, honestly, I think I ended up averaging 22 miles on the bike, and I was using flat pedals, which everybody thought was pretty amusing. They're like, this dude's crushing it on the bike. Like, he just got into triathlon and he's using flat pedals. He don't have clip ins. But when I came across that finish line, man, the amount of accomplishment, confidence, self-esteem, the community that I connected with, I knew right then that endurance sports was something that I wanted to continue to do for as long as I could. And so that's how I got into endurance sports and running.
That's pretty amazing, man.
Yeah.
And what a backstory though. So you were addicted to apparently a lot of stuff. That whole list you went through. So you were. Is that what got you kind of like? I seen that you went, or you said you went to prison or to jail. How long were you in?
I mean, total in and out for, all those years that I was in addiction. Um, Probably close to a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. Probably
Wow.
about a year and a half total. I do a month here, 2 months there. The last time that I served time though was 6 months. So
Is
I got
that
arrested in
last time?
March.
That last time is the one that you found God and then kind of
Yep,
got into it and decided to change your life and get into endurance sports? Like, is that kind of
it
how
was.
it all flowed?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's
That's
take a
when it
little bit
happened.
of a let's take a little bit of a backstory. Like, how old were you when you started kind of messing and toying around a little bit with drugs and getting into that?
Well, I was 11. I mean, growing
Oh
up,
wow.
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of indigenous communities, it's so normalized, I think a lot of rural small communities it's like that anyways, but especially
Yeah.
in indigenous communities. Just seeing all my uncles partying, drinking, selling drugs, except my dad, like, I'm not going to sit here and demonize my dad. My dad was a hardworking man, busted his ass, drove nails his whole life. Had a really really successful construction business, worked hard, earn his money by the sweat of his brow. And I think like I get my work ethic and the things like my commitment from my dad and my mom both. But in the meantime, my dad was also a hustler, and he sold a little weed, a little cocaine on the side. He's dead and gone now, so I can talk about him a little bit. So, but man, he's instilled a lot, just toughness, man, getting after it, provided for his family, protecting us and everything. But I mean, seeing that stuff and seeing it so normalized, I thought that that's just how I was supposed to live. And so,
Yeah.
um, but I started getting migraine headaches when I was 11 years old, probably anxiety, just depression, things I was dealing with when I was younger. And they gave me a low grade narcotic. And whenever I first took that drug, I remember the euphoria that I experienced and how it helped me to be comfortable in my own skin and how it helped me to be comfortable. Well, just be present in the moment and not have to think about the things that I was seeing when, my mom and dad fighting domestic violence. They would separate, come back together, was moving around a lot when I was younger. And, but that drug helped me to be okay and forget everything else.
Mm.
And so I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with that feeling. I fell in love with just how it helped me escape my reality at the time. Not that it was terrible, but there was a lot of stuff going on that I didn't know how to deal with, and it helped me do that. And so, I got mixed up in that. My mom found out pretty quickly that I was abusing my medication, and she ended up hiding it from me and hid it in her panty drawer. And I figured out that's where it was. Old school, you don't have a safe, you just hide it in the underwear drawer. And so I had an older sister too. My sister Leanne, she was 7 years older than me. Unfortunately, she passed away in 2019 to
Mm.
fentanyl overdose.
Oh.
Another huge motivation and reason for why I live the way that how I live my life. And but seeing her like sneaking out of the house, partying, being really, really rebellious and everything, like that's what was being, that's the example that was being set. And so, around that time though, I started running cross country. I was in seventh grade, and I was terrible. I sucked at it. I remember we had a really, really successful cross country team back then where we won, gosh, 3 state championships in a row in North Carolina in 1A.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I was in 7th grade, and that's when the varsity team was winning these state championships. So it's like we had this really, really, it's almost like a dynasty that was unfolding, you know. And I'm in 7th grade, and we got like 12 runners, I think it was. I was the second to slowest on the team. And I remember telling my mom, like, I hate this. I do not want to do it. And she wouldn't let me quit, you know, thank God. And I was just running up Deep Creek the other day, you know, right outside Bryson City. And I was just thinking back, man, I've been running these trails for over 20 years. But anyways, I remember falling down at one of the practices we were doing hill reps. And I fell in front of a bunch of my teammates, and they're all laughing at me, you know, just cutting up, whatever. But I was so embarrassed, man, and I wanted to quit. And my forearms were all skin up and everything. And I stuck it out, though. I stuck it out. I started building some relationships with my teammates, and I'd play community basketball, you know, for Birdtown. Like we had a community league around Cherokee. And I came back my 8th grade year in cross country. I lost the first meet. I knew I was going to have a decent season. I lost the first meet of the year, and then swept the rest of the season and won a conference championship in middle school. And so I knew then, like, I was pretty good. Like, but it didn't happen overnight. It took me a year sucking and just wanting to quit. But honestly, that's when anytime that you do something and you see progress, you get a little confidence and you kind of buy into it, and you get curious of like, well, what can I accomplish if I keep putting in the work?
Yep.
And that's kind of where I was at, and that's the mindset that I had. And went into high school, stopped running cross country, started playing football. And so my high school career, I played football, played basketball, and I ran track. And when I was like in 11th grade, I was really getting mixed up in the partying scene. And we were on our way to go play one of our first away games my junior year. And one of my buddies pulls out a bag of meth. And little did I know, his dad was the dealer. His dad was cooking meth. And so he always, you know, he was always partying and hanging out with his dad. And so he just had a bag of meth, and he brought it out, and he was like, hey, we're going to put this in our water bottles, and it's going to help us play like Superman. And I was like, let's go. Let's do it. Didn't even think about it. And so there's like 3 or 4 of us mixing meth, all starters on the football team. And seeing like the game that I had after that, I had an interception, but ran it back for a touchdown. I was like, yes, this is it. Like I'm going to continue taking this because of how it just made me play. Couple of weeks go by, and we're playing Robbinsville, like we were talking about. It's very close to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a state game it was the game of the week. Julius Peppers, playing for the Carolina Panthers at the time, picked this as the state game of the week. Huge game. Go to Big Oak Stadium to play Robbinsville. I remember standing there in warm-ups, and my shoulder pads, you could see my shoulder pads like expanding off my chest, right? My heart, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. And that scared me. And I took a bunch of meth before the football game. Luckily, that didn't happen. But around that time, I think it just, you know, put a little fear in me. Following week, I had SATs. I was up partying all night after the football game. And I remember falling asleep during the SATs because I didn't have any more dope. Mm-hmm. So I'm like really spiraling down. Things are starting to get out of control. And got into a relationship with a girl. She was a preacher's daughter, and that kept me on the straight and narrow a little bit for a little while. So I remember my senior year, I got into I was taking one of the tests my second semester, and I got caught cheating on the test, and I failed 2 classes. I wasn't showing up for the other one, got caught cheating, failed those 2 classes, and I get kicked off the basketball team and the track team.
Oh, no.
And I didn't know what to do with myself because I had that's the only thing that I knew. That was my identity, was being an athlete. And, I'm in this internal battle where I'm constantly partying and using drugs and everything, and I'm barely hanging on by a thread in my sports and in the classroom. And then I lose this opportunity. And I could have played played football for Mars Hill or went and ran track for Western, and I lost those opportunities. And so then I'm like, well, now what the hell do I do? The only thing that was there that gave me comfort was the partying and the dope game. And so I was like, okay, this is the thing that gives me comfort. This is the thing that helps me escape. And barely graduated high school. Shortly after, I had my first son, Hayden, who just turned 19. And then I had 1 year later, I had my second son, Kallup, with another woman. Kallup just turned 18. But again, man, my life was spiraling out of control so quick. And unfortunately, I was never a presence in their lives. And Hayden still doesn't talk to me, and I've seen him. I can count on both hands how many times I've seen him since he was a baby. Like it's a struggle. It sucks. And I'm still paying the price in a lot of ways for my decisions 20 years ago.
So you had two kids by two different mothers?
Women almost a year to the day apart.
Oh, wow.
That wasn't good, bro.
I guess that caused some drama. So you said that, you obviously were still using drugs quite a bit at that point.
Yeah.
But did you spiral out of control even worse when you lost the sports? Like, is that what pushed you over the edge?
Absolutely.
Go ahead. Is that when you OD'd?
No, that wouldn't come until later.
Oh, okay.
That wouldn't come until later. I graduate high school. I start working, just some odd jobs. Couldn't hold down a job. Because at this point in time, it was smoking crack, snorting cocaine, snorting pills. That's what I was doing a lot. I was doing a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a job. I've got my own concrete pumping business. I go and I get it per capita, which a lot of people don't understand what that is. So as a tribal member, Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, we've got our two casinos, one in Murphy, one in Cherokee. The revenue that those casinos generate, we get per capita. Mm-hmm. So we get two checks per year. Now, that's in a savings fund from the time that you're born until you're 18. When you turn 18, you get a lump sum, whatever's in the savings. So for me, I think I got like $40,000. Put a little bit in CDs, spent the rest going to Amboy Road in Asheville buying ounces of cocaine and crack. Like, that's what I was doing. And I had a little bit of the money that I had left in this. I don't usually talk about this, but this is pretty cool. I get to go back and share all these details.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, we're just chopping it up, man. We're sharing everything here. I had those two CDs. I had about $5,000. I went and put a down payment on a concrete pump, and I started pumping concrete. Come from a family of carpenters. I did not want to be a carpenter. I wanted to do something else. My dad hated that though. But anyhow, so I start my own concrete pumping business. And I also start doing MMA around the time.
Oh.
Mind you, I'm partying, doing all the stuff. Got this little business, and it's doing pretty well. I'm making some money, getting some jobs here and there, and start doing some amateur fights in MMA. And on my third amateur fight, I got my arm broke. I blocked a high kick, and the kid, he kicked like a mule, man. He snapped my forearm.
What the damn good thing you blocked it.
I would have snapped my jaw. took my head off. So I remember that was on my birthday. I was actually fighting in Cherokee in Birdtown at our little community building, our gym. And my dad told me, he was like, "Don't do it. I think it's a bad idea. Don't fight here." And I was like, "Dad, I got it. So then I get my arm broke, get beat. They gave me a prescription of Percocet, and that is the worst thing that could have happened.
Oh man.
I never went back to the gym, never stepped back in the gym. And I got a few months script of Percocet. So I'm doing Percocet, selling them here and there, getting mixed back up in it. Around that same time, I lose my concrete pumping business. And, next thing I want to do, all right, I want to go be a cop. So I signed up for basic law enforcement training, and I go over to Franklin, and I'm going through BLET, and about the second month I flunk out. I'm snorting cocaine, partying, and I'm going to BLET classes in the morning, and flunk out. Next session rolls around, I sign back up, show up for BLET. First day I walk in, they pull me out of the classroom, go take me to the instructor's office, and he was like, "You have to leave right now." I was like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "We just got a call from Cherokee Police Department that you're under investigation for selling cocaine." I was, and so I was guilty. So, nothing crazy, just to support my habit. But one of the officers called over and said, "Yeah, like he's, we got our eye on him." Anyways, so that was shot down. God closed that door real quick because I had no good intentions of doing that. And man, it was just floating by for several years around that time. Couldn't hold down a job because I was always dope sick, pill sick, in a really toxic relationship. And I was an asshole, and I didn't know how to love anybody else because I couldn't love myself. Yeah. And so my dad gets diagnosed with cancer when I'm 23 years old, and they gave him 6 months to live. And around this time, I'm snorting pills, snorting, Roxy's 30s, and just kind of, sell here, sell there, steal what I can to support my habit, racking up some charges along the way, doing some jail stints. And I get this news though that my dad's going to pass away. And I was like, snorting pills does not do it for me anymore. So I need to take it to the next level to numb this pain. And I remember like one of those, I feel like God has intervened in my life so much. And now I've got the eyes to see it. But this is one of those moments. My son's 5 years old. He's staying with me. Kallup, that is, my youngest son. And I had my girlfriend at the time go get a bag of syringes. Her grandma was diabetic. So she brought the syringes home. And, man, I fought. I was battling. I had that battle going on. Like, do I do this? My life's going to change forever if I put this needle on my arm. And I sat down in the bathroom on the toilet there, and I just stared at it, and I pulled a pill back, and I'm staring at it. And I'd already made up my mind, and I'm looking at it though. And around that time, my son knocks on the door, and he's like, Dad, are you okay? And I remember putting a towel down at the bottom of the door, and I was like, yeah, son, I'll be out in a minute. And I shot up, and I think like the weight of shame of like, this is who I am now. I'm a druggie and just a junkie. Consume me, man, and put me in this prison immediately. And it was like, I'm never going to come back from this. And so when you're so hopeless and you're living in despair, it's like, just keep doing what you're doing, right? Because there's no reason to do anything else. Yep. And that's where I was at, and that's the perspective that I had. And so that went on for years, man. My dad, he got diagnosed with that cancer around 2011. I remember moving in the house with him, and he would give me pain medication to keep me from being sick. He would give me some of his pills. But mind you, I was also stealing his checks, stealing his pain medication. This is actually his house, like the room that we're sitting in. I'm sitting in right now. People see. There's a bedroom upstairs that I lived in, and I would hear my dad. The bathroom was just outside the camera here. My dad would go into the bathroom, sick from his chemo treatments, and I would come down the steps because I could hear him puking, and dealing with diarrhea and everything. And I would come down the steps and I'd come in the door, sneak in, crawl across the floor, and I would get into his pain medication while he was, fighting for his life. It's so crazy to tell that story and be sitting in this room telling it, because my life's so much different now. But, it went on for a couple of years. And one of the significant things about my running journey in 2013, when the Boston bombing happened, I came down the steps and I was so freaking pill sick that day. And I remember looking at the TV when I came down the steps and I was like, what the hell's going on? Like all these news stories popping up. Boston bombing just happened, Boston Marathon. I had no idea what the hell the Boston Marathon even was. And that around that time, I was just like, to think that 10 years later that I would be running the Boston Marathon in a 2:40.
Yeah.
Like if I'd have told that Kallup then, like in 10 years, you're going to be running that race. Like that's mind boggling to even think. But, like I remember my dad at the end of his life, he called me to his hospice room. The last few days he was alive. And the nurse asked him, like, man, you're a tough man. Like, you're a strong man. Why are you fighting so hard? And my dad told the nurse, I want to see my son become the man that I know he can be. And a couple of days before he passes, he calls me to his bedside and he asked everybody else to leave the room. It's just me and him. And I'm standing there looking at him. I'm standing by him. I'm holding his hand. And here's my hero, Shell, the man he once was. Weighs 130 pounds, soaking wet, barely recognizable, but yet he's speaking like this prophetic word over me that wouldn't come true for years. But again, it's like God speaking through my dad. It's like God calling out to me. But my dad was like, son, I'm not worried about you because you're gonna beat this one day. And you're gonna do some great things for our family, for our community, and for the world. And in that moment, I had sweat beads dripping down my face. I was strung out. All I could think about was going and getting the next fix. And thinking to myself, no, I'm just a junkie and this is probably how I want to die. And that's the perspective that I had. A couple of days later, and he's at the end of his life. I'm in the bathroom connected to his hospice room. And I can hear his heart rate monitor beeping, and it flatlines. And my dad's soul leaves this earth. And I've got a needle in my arm in that moment. And I remember just pulling that rig out of my arm, wiping the blood off, walk over to my dad and give him a kiss on the forehead. And it was right back to the chaos. I called my dope dealer and I said, hey, meet me at the casino. My dad just died. And so he's like, all these low moments of my life still wasn't enough. And there's low bottom addicts and there's high bottom addicts where some people get it. Some people just get scared that one time and they're like, like, I'm not doing this anymore. And it makes them take contrary action. That was not me, man. I'm stubborn as hell and I learned stuff the hard way. Any significant change that's ever happened in my life is when I back myself into a corner or God's put me on my back, unfortunately. And so, which can also be a good thing, like just being stubborn and, having grit and determination. But, it was just like, I honestly was, I didn't think I was ever going to come out of it, man. And so that went on for years, like this cycle of just trying to commit suicide by overdose. I did not want to be alive. I couldn't stand the person that I seen looking back at me in the mirror. I hated myself. But yet I'd put on this facade like everything was okay and I was cool. But man, I looked terrible, strung out. I weighed like 130 pounds. And I start trying to commit suicide by overdose on several occasions. And again, like one of those God winks in 2016, my worst overdose right outside the bedroom here. Actually I overdosed in this bathroom and they drugged me through this bedroom took me outside into the living room. I had like 20 people here partying, everybody's just hanging out, doing dope. When I overdosed, everybody left except the girl I was with and a guy that I grew up with. Everybody else dipped. And they first they tried to put me in the bathtub, put cold water on me, get me breathing again. And my eyelids were blue, my lips were blue, my ears were blue. I had no pulse, and this is going on for minutes. I'd get a pulse, no pulse again. So they pull me out of the bathroom, call the ambulance. Ambulance shows up. This is like November of 2016. Ambulance shows up. EMT worker gets out. Like they're working on me. A couple of them just gave up. They're like, he has no pulse. EMT worker calls the ER doctor and says he's not been breathing in a couple of minutes. And the ER doctor's like, if you have more Narcan, don't stop giving it to him. So she gives me another Narcan kit. I come to combative, immediate withdrawal, tell everybody to get the hell out of my house. Little did I know that woman would later become my mother-in-law. That my wife's mom saved me years before we even got together.
Wow.
And just another one of those moments, man, where you can't make that up.
No.
You can't orchestrate that. And so, again, it was like God intervening in my life, but I didn't have the eyes to see it. So a couple months later, I've got warrants, 3 different counties. I had gotten to a high-speed chase. I had state troopers, Jackson County, Cherokee, and Swain, all 3 counties and state troopers chasing me one day. And looking back on it now, is always one of the troopers, he'd always tell the other ones now, like after I got into recovery and everything, was doing well, they'd be like, man, don't even try chasing Kallup. Like, you ain't catching him. Like, I was good at running even when I wasn't running. So I got these high speed chases, man, and they finally hemmed me up, arrested me, set my bond at 180,000. I was like, yeah, ain't nobody bonding me out. So it's time for me to cool my heels, do my time. I had no intentions of changing when I went into jail. And about 3 weeks into my jail stay, when everything's stripped, when you have nothing, nobody to talk to, everybody's, you got somebody telling you what to do, when to eat, when to shit, when to shower, all that. Like, your mind will start to change a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I was starting to kind of seek, like, man, there's got to be more. There's got to be more than what I've been doing. And so I remember sitting down. I was kind of journaling at the time, and I sat down and I was writing this letter out, and I was like, God, if you're real, show me something. Show me that my dad's still with me somehow. And I lay my pen down, and like a minute goes by, and a pastor walks in, and when he came in, it stopped me in my tracks when I seen him, because it was such a striking resemblance of my dad. Same age, around the same age, same eye color, same mustache trimmed the same way. He had the same kind of flannel shirt on. His shirt was tucked in, belt, pants, shoes, like top to bottom, man, just a striking resemblance of my dad. He came in and shared the gospel with me, and just told me, like, things can change. Like, you got to surrender. You got to take contrary action. You got to let God take all this stuff that you've been trying to carry. Surround yourself with different people. And so it's just like the message I need to hear. When the student's ready, the teacher will appear. And I was ready, man. And he shared that message with me. And I came to faith while I was locked up in jail, and I had the most exhilarating feeling of freedom I've ever had in my entire life. And I was locked up in Swain County Detention Center, because I knew things were going to be different. And I started having perspective, like, everything that I've overcame in my life is for a reason and for a purpose. And I want to seek that with every fiber of my being. And so that's when I started to read different stuff, just work out, do jailhouse workouts, do what I could, and that brings me up to where we started.
That's amazing.
That's some powerful stuff, dude.
I have so many questions, but I don't want to take us backwards. But That's dude, that's an amazing story, by the way. Like, how many years was that in total? You're talking from 11 years old to like, when did you finally quit?
Well,
yeah, I mean, that's kind of unheard of. Like, most people don't survive that long.
yep, that's
No,
true.
they don't, man. They don't,
So,
and that's
I mean,
very fortunate.
that is a gift in itself and a blessing. And you're right. I mean, everything happens for a reason. Like, everybody has their own destination that leads them into becoming the person that they are. And you wouldn't ever become that person without some type of trauma or things that you've endured.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm sure, like you just said, when you were younger, Kallup, you would have never have envisioned running the Boston Marathon. Like, you would have never have thought. And dude, your dad would be so proud of you for doing that stuff, because you are the man that he was talking about, you know, and you couldn't see that at the time, but all that was leading you to where you're at now. So I couldn't imagine what your life would be like without all of that. You would probably have never been right here, you know, doing the things you're doing now and inspiring people. So, you know, and we've talked to multiple guests who have either, you know, some have had, you know, drug related issues, others have had other types of trauma, some's had, you know, food, you know, that's a very big one. Like, and then we get into the other piece of where, you know, some people just have all kinds of other addictions that are unhealthy, but it all leads them somewhere. And, you know, we had Ed on last week, and he was talking about how he wanted to commit suicide and he ended up having to go get help. And like, now this man has the world record for the most, you know, 100 plus mile distances ever ran in total. And he didn't start till he was 48.
Yep.
So that's the thing. It's like, all of this stuff happens,
man.
and you can't think about it, and you don't see it, because you're, like you've said multiple times, you use the drug because you wanted to be in the moment and forget everything else happening around you, so you don't have that worry. And that's the thing that, unfortunately, it gets taken away when you do that, is you don't see who you can become from the trauma. And like, you're here now, man, and you're just inspiring people, and you just continue to inspire people and do great things. And you and your wife, you know, you've gotten into ultra running and you're doing things together, and you're just a completely different man and a much better man, which is just absolutely amazing. So we are, you know, we wanted to hear your story and let you be able to share it, but it actually even inspired. I mean, it just caught me off guard. I didn't realize you went through so much trauma in your life.
Yeah.
The fact that you're where you're at is just absolutely amazing and speaks volumes to the person you are now.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. And, you know, I heard this quote a while back about our suffering being sacred, you know, and how our suffering can lead us to a greater sense of gratitude, to lead us to a greater sense of purpose, service to others, you know. And I think a lot of times we get so caught up in the moment and get so caught up and ruminate on what we're going through that it's kind of hard to take a step back and look at it from an outside perspective. You know, it's like you can't see the forest for the trees type of thing, but it's like, what can I learn from this, and how can what I'm going through right now, make me better and be a better person for those that I love and those that I'm influencing. And so that's the mindset that I now take. Not why is this happening to me, but what can I learn from this, and how can I use it to be better?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well said. So how do we go from, how do we go from, you know, you get saved in jail, you clean up your life, you come out of there. We've obviously just did a triathlon, so we've talked about that, where you were on your Huffy, or, you know, whatever it was. And,
Pretty much.
It's funny that you say that, just jumping back a little bit, but Ashley Paulson did the exact same thing. She actually had no idea. She actually did her triathlon with a mountain bike. She had no idea. Her very first one, like, she rode a mountain bike, so people were like laughing at her. So it's funny you say that. Y'all are kind of similar in that way. But how do we get to Kallup that's running a 240 marathon?
Man. All right. I'll try not to go too deep, but honestly, I probably would have been more of a cyclist had God not closed the door. When I was doing that jail time, our tribe, there's a newspaper article that came across the table that I read that inspired me. And it's called, our tribe does, in conjunction, in partnership with Cherokee Nation out in Oklahoma, we retrace the northern route of the Trail of Tears. It's called Remember the Removal Bike Ride. So when I seen this article and I read it, I was like, that's what I want to do when I get out. Like, I want to be a part of that ride. I want to learn more about who I am as a Cherokee man. I want to go on that ride to see what my ancestors went through, and it's going to help me heal through movement, heal through this journey. And so I get out of jail and I go to apply for that ride, and my past comes back to haunt me, or actually it blessed me, honestly. They told me that because I had a felony drug conviction on my record, I couldn't do the ride. So I take it all the way to tribal council, our leadership, vice chief and chief. And I said, I was advocating for a rule change. Well, Cherokee Nation out in Oklahoma are the ones that actually started the bike ride. So they made the rules. Long story short, they said, we can't change it. My tribe said, we can't change it. We didn't make the rule. So in a moment of maybe a little bit of ego, I was a little pissed off being rejected. I remember standing in front of the horseshoe where all of our leadership stand, being televised live. And I was like, if you don't let me ride the bike, then I'll run to Oklahoma. And I immediately was like, what the hell did I just say?
I love it.
And the motivation that I needed, though, in that moment came from the responses and the faces of my tribal leadership. Because most of them rolled their eyes and scoffed. And I was like, bet. I was like, you going to doubt me like that? Like, I'm going to live my life differently, and I want to follow through, because that's what commitment is, right? It's following through on the things that we said we was going to do. And so that's the way I was trying to live my life. So
did you yell, who's going to carry the boats?
I should have. Ain't none of them carrying the boats.
How many miles is it from Cherokee, North Carolina, all the way to Oklahoma?
Well, it depends. It depends on what route you take. So
what route did you take?
I took the binge route. The binge route actually doesn't even start until it starts in Fort Payne, Alabama.
Okay.
And for some reason, I was like, I'll start in Cherokee and run to Fort Payne. Well, I didn't. I ran like through Tellico Plain, from Cherokee through Bryson, through Nantahala, Murphy, Tellico Plains, all the way into Tennessee, and then ended up driving to Fort Payne, and then I started to run from there again. And I ran the binge route, ended up running over 800 miles is what I did. So this is a guy.
How long did it take you to plan that after you said that? When did you start running? When you said that and they scoffed and laughed at you, when did you start?
That was November of 2017, and I started running May 14th, 2018.
So you were planning immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Planning immediately, yeah. And, I mean, just coming out of jail, out of however many year addiction, just getting into running, I was probably 40 pounds heavier than I am now. I just started running everywhere. I mean, hell, I was the Native American Forrest Gump. I was constantly, I'd get up in the morning. Like, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I didn't hardly do any research on this. I just knew I needed log miles. That's all. I didn't have a coach. I didn't have a book. I didn't have nothing. I would just run from my house up to my meetings, up to substance abuse treatment classes, and to church, and everywhere. I was running everywhere. And then I started getting into ultras. So I ran my first marathon in January of 2018, training up to this Trail of Tears run. My first marathon was 5 hours and 25 minutes. And I was like, man, that was so fast. I was like, that's a great time. um, and then I ran a 50K after that. It was at Davidson, North Carolina, around the college, and it was 5-6 mile loops. And I remember the first three were a breeze. The fourth loop, I started to die a little bit. The fifth loop, I walked the entire thing. Everybody was packing up, leaving when I finished. I was the last person. I was one of the last guys to finish my first marathon. I was the dead last guy to finish the 50K. I was second to last to finish the Badwater Cape Fear in February. So, or I think it's early March. So like out of the gate, I was not, I mean, I didn't have any talent. I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I was just running just cause I loved it. But that's kind of like, what was the original question? I started getting off a riff here.
We were just talking about that. That's all we were talking about. There was no question. It was how did we get to Boston? But I love the story, by the way.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that's how this came about.
It was.
That's just insane. So that's like truly how your major, like where you're at now, that's truly how it got here. Yeah. Was you got the nod to be able to do the bike ride, and you were just like, out of irritation and just being pissed off, you're like, I'll run.
Yeah.
And here you are. Dude, that's so badass. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
So did you just get a pack and start running?
I did. That's it.
Wow.
That's it. Very basic. Got me a pair of shoes, got me a pack, running vest, and I just started running.
So where did you sleep at as you done this? Did you sleep on the side of the road?
No. I wish I had an epic story and I could say that. Here's a funny thing. I was like, when I initially said I was going to run the Trail of Tears, I was like, I'm not, because the RTR riders, they get like massages, they get put up in, suites and everything, and they got a whole cruise. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'll be sleeping on the road. Well, pretty quickly I found out I did not want to sleep on the side of the road. So
absolutely.
We got hotel rooms. I know. I should have. That'd have been even more epic.
No. We ran Ball State last year, and I don't know if you know much about that race. But
I do. I've heard a lot about it.
We slept on the road when we had to, or one morning I slept at the health department. I slept on the front porch of the health department, but most of the time,
first 3 nights,
we tried to get a hotel. Yeah. But there's just some days you can't, and you're forced to sleep in the road, or somewhere. I think Matt ended up sleeping in one of the storage buildings that they were trying to sell on the side of the road. So
I slept on front porches, the post office, guardrails, and a lot of yards. People who actually set up like angel tents. Yeah, just sleep in the yards.
That's
so
hilarious.
Did you get injured in this 800-mile run?
I did not. No, not at all.
Well, that's impressive.
Not leading up to it. Not during it. No. Honestly, I've been very fortunate. I've only had a couple of injuries that's kept me out. Like in the last, since I've started running late 2017 up until now, I've only been out of running maybe a month.
You know what that is?
What is that?
That's good genes.
That's
good DNA, genes. Man.
I got that dog in me too.
I was going to say your dad probably has, or your mom has some good endurance genes that
my dad did. So, he was a runner back in high school.
Yeah. So some of that comes from that, which is great. I mean, you say when you started out like you had no talent or whatever, but you did, you just hadn't developed it yet, because you've got the talent. It's just continuing to shape it and mold it. Yeah. And, there's a lot of people that truly have to work for every bit of the progress they get. And then there's some people that are lucky that have good genes that as you train, you just hit these huge plateaus and it just gets you addicted. And either way, we're all different and we all have those things, but you've obviously got a good endurance gene to be able to, like, in the short amount of time that you've done it, to just go run 800 miles. So when you finished the 800-mile run, what did you go back to them and say anything?
Well, I had throughout that journey, I started having generating a lot of momentum,
Mm.
and support, and a lot of the people that scoffed at me ended up flying to or driving to Oklahoma to watch me finish.
Oh, that's
And
impressive.
I've had since then I've had their support, and all the things that we're doing. You know, we've got a nonprofit organization where we're opening up a men's recovery home. Council members, chief, vice chief, we get a lot of support. And I honestly, I, almost everything that I've got to experience, I mean, number one comes from the grace of God, but through my running, like doing the things that I've done over the past several years, being told no on the RTR ride led me to running, led me to run Trail of Tears, led me to start our nonprofit organization. It's led me to be a run coach, personal trainer full time. That's what I do full time now. It's helped us to have the support that we have from all over the country now, because I've met so many people through running, through races, through just connecting in the running space and everything. And so, you know, whenever they told me no, I didn't realize that it was God's redirection. It was God's plan.
Yeah.
It was God's plan stepping in.
Dude, I mean, that's honestly like just a cool journey of how you started, and the fact that you started that way. Like, to hear someone say I started like I got into this with a 5K or something else, but like to take the path that you've taken,
Yeah.
and to end up like in jail, completely change your life, come out of here, and like you go back to, you know, North Carolina, and you're there, and you're wanting to do this bike ride to, like, really, it almost feels like you were wanting to do the bike ride to kind of kickstart your life off, and like you wanted to do this thing to like for you, and you get told no, and there's no way in hell like that you're going to take that answer, and you're like, well, F you, I'm just going to run there. And like and now you're sitting here on, you know, this is probably like, I don't know how many podcasts you've done, and you've got your, you know, you've built a great, you know, inspirational story through all of this with what you've done and how you inspire people. But at the same time, man, you're just getting started. You
That's
know,
what
like,
I'm saying, man. I hadn't even scratched the surface, brother.
right. You started running in 2018, and I started running in 2015. You know, and that's my thing, is like, I feel like I'm just getting started. I'm just learning this stuff, and I'll imagine that's exactly how you feel, because you're just scratching the surface of the talent that you have and the gift that you have, and all of this trauma and tragedy and everything that you've endured for so many years, and the struggles. I mean, you're talking about your dad's in the bathroom puking his guts out, trying to get through chemo, and you're army crawling through the floor to go steal pills from him, to now you're a man that, like, he's looking down at you thinking, this is the man that I've always saw and I wanted to see. But you're just started, man. Like, that is just starting. Like, you're going to make such an impact in this running community. And the more people that you get to share this story with, and you get to talk to and run with, and that's the thing, it's run with. When you get to spend time with these people out on the course, man, they're just going to love you and see the kindness and the joy come out, because we can see it as you speak. And that's the things that are personal and that are the character of that person. And you just portray it so well, man. I mean, honestly, I love your story. I love what you're doing. It's so inspiring, and I think you're just truly getting started in the sport, and especially in endurance sports like ultras.
Me too.
Can't wait to see what you do.
Me too, man. I'm excited about it. You know, I mean, like you said, I am just getting started. I am just scratching the surface, and you know, outside of, like, I'm getting ready to start this marathon training block where I'll be racing at Richmond, and then, like, I would love to eventually come back and talk about transcon training, you know, and what I'm trying to achieve during my transcon run, ultimately I would love to raise enough money on that run to support a year of our operational budget for our nonprofit organization, which is over $300,000. But also too, what I
Awesome.
want to do is I want to amplify indigenous voices in the running space, and I want to bring together so many different bands of Native Americans, indigenous people, while I'm on doing this run. And I envision having numerous tribes represented, coming out, bringing their flags, us running together, and just highlighting like us as Native people, because you don't see a lot of that. You don't see a
No.
lot of indigenous runners in the space. And so I want to inspire the next generation of indigenous runners and people that have the same struggles that I had, and help them overcome their issues, their addiction, their trauma. And so like this transcon run is going to be a culmination of doing all those things.
So when is that transcon run?
It's going to be March of 2025, and I've got to finish before my son graduates in May.
You got it.
Oh,
If you ran 800 miles on a whim and probably a couple Oreos and a donut, I'm pretty sure you're good to run now.
Oh, yeah, like definitely if you're coming anywhere close to us. I know you mentioned earlier that you ran through Tellico Plains to get to Murphy and all that. I mean, that's where we're at. So we're 15 minutes from Tellico Plains.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, Kallup. That's where our race starts.
Yeah.
The Cherokee, it starts in Tellico Plains.
So like if you come anywhere close to that, like reach out to us.
Yeah,
like,
we'll run with you.
We want to run with you. Like we want to be there to support that, because I mean that's local to us, and that's something we want to support you in.
For sure. Well, we're going to make it happen then. I'll be.
Yep.
So one of the unique things I want to do with the Transcon is nobody's ever ran the Junaluska route, and the Junaluska route is the only route that returns from Oklahoma back to our native lands here in Western North Carolina. And so I want to. There's a big divide and a lot of controversy between the United Kadua Band and Cherokee Nation out in Oklahoma. They just don't get along. They like one another. And so what I want to do with my Transcon run is bring all three Cherokee tribes together under one, like you have locking arms, being one unit, and I want to bring as many people from EBCI, Cherokee Nation, UKB, back from Oklahoma, and finish up in Robbinsville is where Junaluska route starts or stops. So,
Yeah, dude. If
I'll keep
you let us know, you keep us updated, we'll come run with you. We'll take turns. We'll make sure we can do shifts with you. We got several people that will come, especially from our team. Probably we would have a lot of people come.
Robbinsville is not far from us, so that is an easy over the mountain. We're there.
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, you just let us know, and we'll be there.
Let's do it, man. I'm excited. It's crazy because so many people are already wanting to get on board. It's a crazy story. Yeah. I was at BPN Ultra to crew one of my friends out there last month, and I'm sure everybody knows. Have y'all had Paul Johnson on yet?
No, but I saw his whole transcon and all the stuff he does. Yeah.
So I'm sitting at the table, and it's just like synchronicity, man. Just how things have been coming together. Like I was sitting at the table, the race had just started, and I'm talking to one of my friends, Amanda, Matt Johnson's girlfriend. And we're sitting there chit chatting, and I'm talking about like what's next. She's asking, "What do you have coming up?" So I started telling her, and there's a guy sitting right across the table from me, and he's just smiling real big. And I'm like, "What's up, man?" And so we start chatting, and he was like, "You know Paul Johnson?" I was like, "Yeah, I followed his journey." And he was like, I'm the guy that was behind the camera and doing a lot of his crew chiefing. And I was like, no freaking way. So my boy Griffin Wooden, who was one of Paul's crew members, was sitting across the table. And now Griffin and I are actually getting ready to start planning a transcon around just because he's got so much experience with it. So it's just like,
that's cool, man.
I know I'm on the right path. I know that I'm right where I'm supposed to be just by how things are just, serendipitously like coming together.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So are you going to start in California somewhere and then come across?
San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to do something a little different. So I want to start up in North Cal, and then just work my way across. Like I say, drop down into Oklahoma, hit Junaluska route, drop a lot of my native people off in Robbinsville, and we're going to keep hammering toward Wilmington and finish in Wilmington.
Dude, that's so cool.
Perfect.
That's gonna be epic.
It will be, dude. Like, I wish, when you did the last one, or even you came down from Cherokee to Murphy and all that, like, man, I wish we'd known that, because that'd have been cool to jump on right there with you and run that part with you.
Yeah, man, for sure. It's going to be totally different this time compared to what it was last time. It was me, my mom, my cousin, and Caitlin, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. That was it. So it's going to be so much different.
So when you get closer to the, you say you're going to do it in March, maybe sometime in February, if you have time, let's get you back on here and talk about it that the listeners can hear where you're going to be, and we can try our best to help give you support as much as we can across, as many locations as possible. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Oh yeah.
To have people out there running with you. So let's plan on doing that sometime in February if you got time.
For sure. I'll make time. I'll be, doing a lot of social media around then too. I'm sure just, getting the, getting the mission out there, promoting that. And, honestly, we could probably geek out a lot about training and what that looks like, how many calories I'm in, and
I love it.
That stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well,
Griffin, he was sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I was going to say, Griffin was like, dude, with the ability that you have as a runner, like, you're not going to have a problem completing this. Like, we do this the right way. But he said, the only thing is you just got to train your gut. He was like, you got to be ready to eat 10 to 12,000 calories a day, at least. It sounds good because I love to eat. I got my own little hashtag Kallup Eats because I always just. But man, I'm sure you just you start getting a little carb calorie fatigue. But we'll see.
I don't know. Vol State, I never got where I couldn't eat. Like during like an ultra, like a 50K or 100-miler, you get to a point where you don't eat. But Vol State, I never go to that point. I was like, give me food all the time.
It's probably the intensity, because if you're running at a lower intensity, like your body's not working hard, and so you can probably get more food down then.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we stopped at plenty of restaurants and we're like, hey, you got burgers? What do you got? You got breakfast? Hey, fill me up. And then you go back out and you start doing your little jogging.
Yeah, you get tired of the gas station food after a while, though.
Pop-Tarts and crackers are old quick.
How did it take y'all?
I was a little over 5 days, and I think Matt was just a little over 6 days.
6 days, 21 hours, and 30 minutes.
I was 3 days of failing, like, over and over and over. And that's actually the tattoo I ended up getting is the state of Tennessee. That orange is the route we ran, the 314 miles. And my tattoo, I know you can't see it, but it just says fail until you don't.
What do you mean?
Because
going over and over. What do you?
So like every day I did something wrong like that. The best advice I can ever give anybody for something that's going to be a multi-day run is that you need to plan to run the race exactly how you trained it. Period. And what I ended up doing was I trained to run this race, not walk it. Mm-hmm. And that was a terrible plan to begin with. Like I could have done it better if I'd have put much more strategy into it. But what I ended up doing was running for a while. I ran like the first 70 miles in the first day and then walked, and then I would run, then I would walk, then I would run, then I would walk. By day 2, I hurt so bad because I had not been walking at all. And then day 2 was awful. I walked, ran, couldn't figure out why I was so upset. I was so upset because nothing was going right. And then day 3, I mean, dude, I would have been unhappy with anything in this world. It did not matter. I was a 6-year-old little boy just whining about everything. And finally, I looked at the guy that I was with, Mike, and I just looked at him. I said, "We've got to find somewhere and sleep. Like, we just got to stop." So I got a hotel. I slept for 8 hours in that hotel. I got up, and it was that next morning. I got up. It was like 5 or 6 in the morning, and I was just like, "I'm running every step. I'm going to walk the hills, and I'm going to run everything else just the way that I've trained." And at that point, we were like at mile 150. So 3 days, I think, something like that. Maybe a little bit more, 150, 180, somewhere around there. We were done in 2 days after that. We ran 150 miles those next 2 days. And I just and I felt amazing. And that's why I say you kind of fail until you don't, and you're doing everything wrong till you figure out what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a great learning lesson for me, because I had never done a multi-day race like that. Mm-hmm. I've done 100-milers, I've done backyards, but that's completely different than I got to run 300 miles or you're going to run 2,000 miles or what, it's completely different, because however you train, be prepared to run exactly the way you train. And if that means that you don't run during the middle of the day because it's too hot, then that's when you need to plan on sleeping, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Build it that way, because I didn't train to run. And when I finally figured that out and I ran those last 2 days, I ran more miles in those 2 days than I ran in the first 3 days. And if I go back and I do this race again, I will know that and I will be ready. But I did everything wrong those first 3 days, man. I was so pissed off. Like, I've never had a race go so bad. And then I finally fixed it. And I was super happy, to finish in 5 days and good, but it was a damn hard learning experience for me.
I had a fun time in the first 3 days. I was just jogging and walking though. It was bad.
What would you guys average like per day?
So my first day, I ran almost 100 miles.
Yeah, I ran 72 the first day.
My second day, I ran 30 miles, I think.
I caught you the second day, so whatever that was.
Do what?
Do you think you went a little too hot out of the gate trying to do a hundo?
I stayed up too late.
That's you.
So I didn't plan well. My goal was sleep a couple hours, keep running, sleep a couple hours, keep running. I mean, you got to have, if you're going to do multi-days, you got to plan enough sleep in there. And that's what I didn't do. And when I slept that 8 hours on that third day and I decided to run the way I trained, man, I felt amazing. My fastest part of the race, this was funny. This was so this literally just happened this past week. I had no idea I was even on this. So Ball State, they have their own page and they were posting, and someone tagged me in a post. The last day, the last 20 to 30 miles was the fastest of the whole race for me, dude. I ran 9 and 10 minute miles all the way to the finish, including this giant ass climb.
It sucks.
I have the second fastest time on Strava, like, of all time. So I averaged a 10-something minute mile up this mountain. And I think third or fourth place is like 15, 17 minutes. I don't know. Me and another guy both have 10 minutes. He's first, I'm second.
Yeah, too fast for me.
I was just so ready to be done, and I was feeling so good. I just kept running. And that's why I say, like, run your own race. Like, don't get caught up in, oh, my leg's hurt and I'm going to have to walk. Well, then something's wrong. You're either tired, you've not ate. Stop and fix it. And you have to do that, or you're just going to lose time. And I didn't learn that until day 3. So for you, like, you've already experienced some of this in your 800-mile journey to Oklahoma. But at the same time, you're actually going to run, almost 3 times that distance. So, just be prepared. Like, you have to be ready to, like, not say, I can just walk it out for the next 20 miles. It's fine. Like, stop then, fix the problem. so that you can run. You're going to make more time that way. Don't settle for walking 20 or 30 miles, because all you're going to do is lose time and hurt yourself. So that's kind of like, however you train, be ready. If you know something's going wrong, stop and fix it then, because you're going to gain so much from that. And that's why I say you fail until you don't. And I've learned that. And I think we all kind of like have experienced that in endurance races, but I'd never experienced it on this level until I ran 300 miles.
Yeah, no, that's solid advice. I mean, it is a totally different, I mean, you're working so many different muscle groups. So, I mean, I would imagine your body's like, what the hell are you putting me through right now?
Yeah. And that's the thing, man. Like you get in your head and you think, I've trained all year for this shit. Like what is going on? Like, how can I not run right now? And you just get so down on yourself, and really there's nothing wrong with you. You just need to rest. You just need calories. And if you fix that, you'll be back to normal. But 3 days of no sleep and and just all this, you turn into a 6-year-old little boy who his milk's too cold, his popsicle's too cold, all this stuff. And like, there was nothing that was going to make me happy. But man, when I woke up from that 8 hours, I jumped up out of that bed and I was like, let's go. And we ran almost 100 miles that day. I slept, got up, and finished the race. And it was like just awesome. And it was great.
You slept more than I did. That's for sure.
Well, Kallup, we won't take any more of your time, man. I know you want to have some dinner with your family here soon. So let's jump into questions. I'm going to ask you, while Matt's getting everything pulled up and ready, I'm going to ask you a question that we ask every listener. And you've kind of already like hinted around at this anyways, but I want to hear the full answer. But why do you run? What keeps you going when things are so hard and you're in there and, everything's going wrong and you don't feel good? Why do you do it? What keeps you going?
Man, it's such a complex response, because it's not just, it's numerous things. And I'm very fortunate that I have so many things that I can pull from when it comes to motivation. And honestly, I'll just start with running has helped me to lean into what it means to be Cherokee. It's exposed me to doing the Trail of Tears. It's exposed me to connecting to my land more, and running where my ancestors farmed, worked the land, explored these mountains, hunted, fished, everything. Like, I feel so connected to my ancestors. When I get out and run at Gadua Mound here around Cherokee, or run around Cherokee, like, it's medicine for me, seeing, I had a friend, she's Dene, she's Navajo, and she was like, you guys, you Eastern natives don't realize how good you have it. Like, the fog in the morning is something that they don't get to see a lot out west. And she's like, whenever you get up in the morning on your runs and you look at that fog, you need to realize that's our ancestors. Like, that's the holy people. That's your ancestors looking over you, that fog that's rising up in the mountains. And I was like, man, now I understand why it's so spiritual for me to get out there and run in the mornings. So connecting to my culture through running is something that's so important to me. And seeing our messengers and our warriors of days past, like hearing these stories of them running beside a horse through the mountains for days, carrying a message from Cherokee to Pennsylvania, 500 miles in 5 days. A whole band of warriors running on foot, and reading some of these things when I was doing my research of the Trail of Tears run, and seeing like how our Cherokee warriors have this great sense of endurance and determination and grit. And so, like, that's one of the things that that I pull from. Like that's one of the reasons that I love to run. Honestly, man, it helps me to process things. It helps me to be in control of something when so much of the rest of the day, a lot of times, is out of our control. You know, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what the day is going to bring. For that hour, 2 hours, however long it is, I can be alone with my thoughts. I can be alone with God. I can be alone with my wife, friends, whatever, having conversations or just being silent. But I'm just present. I'm in control. I'm so thankful. My ideas, like my best ideas, are generated through my runs. Um, you know, and just helps me to process that anxiety and stress and everything, and just kind of work through those things. Um, you know, I really I love just seeing the progress, the amount of growth that I've experienced, how just showing up, committing to a process, training day in and day out, being consistent, seeing that compound, being driven and dedicated to go and achieve a goal, how that's transferred over into all the areas of my life. How it's given me a boldness and a big faith to go out and do other things in business and coaching and building a nonprofit organization. Like all of that was generated through me going out on these runs early in the morning, you know, and me seeing that progress and me having that belief in myself, like that I can accomplish hard things through doing races, through different things, a test of, you know, grit and determination and will. Like all these things that I learned, these lessons that I learned through running has transferred over into all the areas of my life. I heard this quote a while back, like, and I don't run at the trails as much as I used to, and I'm sure, you know, I have times where I hit the trails, I get in the woods, but I heard this quote said, whenever you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed, put yourself in the way of nature. And so that's something that I love to do. I love, you know, just running on a trail, getting on top of a mountain, you know, hiking or running up a mountain or something and just standing there and just like, it puts things in perspective. It makes you realize that you're not the center of the universe, that there's something bigger than you. And so it's given me that gift and that ability, having that gratitude, showing up, you know, and having that sense of gratitude and thankfulness for the things that I have. And I probably wouldn't do that if I wasn't out, you know, running and doing the things that I do. So
Yeah.
that's just a few of the things, man.
No, I love it. That's a great answer, man.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's being in nature and being out there. It's so spiritual. It's so mindful. Like it's calming, and at the same time, like you can just be alone and like be in your own thoughts and figure things out and just work through them as you're out there, and just to be in nature at the same time. Though it's kind of calming as you're doing that, you know, because you feel like you're just out there alone and you're just doing your thing, and there's so much stuff around you. It's just amazing. So I love that answer. It's great, brother.
For sure. I mean, for years and years, the worst place that I could be is in my own head. And now I look.
I can imagine so, man. But that's come full circle now.
It has. Now I enjoy going there. I enjoy just being alone with my thoughts and processing those things. And
Yeah,
so
I would imagine that was a dark place for a long time.
it still is sometimes, man. But we're
All right, Mr. Williams, I'll let you take us off.
Well, the first thing I want to say is that when I listened to your podcast, I think it was on the Jeremy Miller podcast, and you were telling your story there, it brought a lot back to my childhood, where my father was also mixed up in a lot of the drugs and the meth and all that stuff. So it hit me when I was listening to it, because we got took away from my parents when I was in 8th grade. And then, grew up, and I didn't want to go through that stuff that my dad went through. So listening to the podcast the first time on there, it really hit me. And that's when I reached out to you and like, dude, like that podcast was awesome. because it brought me back to my childhood and all the stuff that I went through. And not a lot of people know that. I guess they do now, but
Yeah, they do now.
they do now. So
Hey.
that's
Appreciate
I
you
didn't
sharing.
have that. I didn't have that relationship with my dad either, or with your kid that you haven't really talked to. Me and my dad don't have that relationship either. But now just listening to that, the change and everything that you made, it's amazing, dude. Like it really hit home, and I just want to thank you for sharing all that with us. And the first time I heard that, it hit.
Well, and thank you for sharing that with us, Matt.
No, I just want to say thank you because our stories are sacred and they're a gift, and being able to share that, man, that's powerful, Matt. So thank you for sharing your heart with me, brother. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Thank you for bringing all that out and relating to people who may not talk about that, because I don't talk about it. I mentioned it a few times to David, but a lot of people don't know that story. So, all right, let's get into some questions here. We got normal questions, and then we got a few that deal with your personal stuff. Do you have a strength plan?
I do. Typically I will try to hit about three days of lifting per week, and I mainly focus on full body. I'm a personal trainer as well, so I like to keep it simple though in the gym. I program a lot of my own workouts, but I like presses, pull exercise. Like I give this template to my athletes because I think a lot of times as runners, I mean, that's going to take priority. And so your strength training should just be supplementary. And so what I try to do is push, a pull, a hinge, a squat, single leg, core work, plyos. I like to move in different planes of motion because we're constantly in that sagittal plane. So I like moving across my body, moving laterally, just getting really efficient and trying to maintain as much athleticism as I can, because I just feel like it helps us move better out on the trails or out on the road. Keeps us the injuries, I think, at bay and really great for injury prevention. Obviously, loading the lower legs, different calf work, soleus, gastric, things like that. Pepper in some of that stuff. But yeah, man, I just try to stay as athletic as I possibly can. Keep a little muscle mass, and just keep it simple throughout my season. And then as I progress through my training block and get closer to my goal race, I'll back it down. I'll do a couple days a week. And I'm starting to do a little bit more mobility work too. So 1 to 2 days of that as well on top of the strength training.
Perfect.
I love the fact that you focus on strength training, because a lot of runners don't really take that as serious. And it's such a big part of, especially if you're doing endurance running. I mean, strength training is so important.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of the research is showing it can reduce your injury risk by up to 85%, and it increases your running economy and efficiency up to just doing plyo works alone, not even anything else, just doing plyo work alone increases your running efficiency like up to 7%. Like that's low hanging fruit that you need to go out and get. And so keep it simple, 20 minutes a day, a couple times a week goes a long ways.
Definitely. What is your average mileage per week?
Obviously, that varies. If I'm deep into a marathon training block, that's going to be when it's at its highest. But that's usually around 85 miles a week. Right now, I am just entering my marathon block. So I'm coming off of an injury where I had some back issues. I had a bulging disc pushing on my L4, and it was causing like loss of power in my left leg. But with that, I've been slowly building up. Honestly, I came back off that injury. It's probably the most significant injury I've had since I've been running. Kept me out here, like I say significant, it only kept me out 16 days. But I had to ease back into things, run walking. And so I went 20 miles, 30 miles, 40 miles. I'll hit, or close to 50, excuse me. I'll hit 50 again this week. And then I'll go up to 60, and then I'll stay between 60 and 85, maybe even 90, all the way up to my training block. So I'm sitting at about 50 miles a week right now.
Perfect. Do you have a favorite hydration?
Go switch back. Jeremy, send me some stuff, bro. No, I do. I love Go Switchback. I love Element, the spicy Element. I'm a big the mango chili or whatever it is, or the jalapeno.
That's pretty good.
That is
Oh,
good,
God.
man. So good, especially early in the morning. Like that gets the bowels moving quick, man.
I guarantee it.
Pounding one of those spicy elements, like go to the bathroom real quick. But yeah, so Go Switchback, electrolytes, and then Element.
I'll tell you a story about the spicy element. I think the first year I did mid-state, they gave us that spicy element. They gave us a whole packet of all the samples. Well, I took them back to work with me, and I gave them to two of my coworkers. I said, here's some great electrolytes for you guys. They poured them in their bottles. They're shaking them up, and they just start drinking. Boy, they spit that stuff everywhere. Their mouth was on fire, and they were pissed the rest of the day. Like, you gave me that. It was Sam, the guy always in you. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm not drinking that nasty stuff. So they don't trust me to give them any kind of electrolytes ever since then.
I thought it was good. I like that, and then the salt. I think it's salted watermelon.
Well, that was good.
Yeah,
It's good. I mean, there's a lot of good ones, but I love the chili one.
Those
the mango
spicy
chili.
ones are a no-go for me.
the Relight's really good too. I like Relight. If I was going to have another alternative, it'd be Relight.
Yeah.
I haven't tried that one.
I haven't tried that one either.
It's
I
on
don't
sale.
think.
It's on sale right now. So go snag you some.
I'll check it out.
Look it up.
I'm always experimenting with stuff.
Every time I get on Instagram, it's always a new electrolyte. So why not try a new one? Yeah. What kind of shoes do you wear?
Brooks or Nike. So Brooks for a lot of my base runs. I usually race. I've raced in the Hyperion Elites for my marathons. Nikes. I'm a huge Peg guy. Pegasus is my go-to daily trainer. Outside of Brooks, and then when it comes to racing on the Nike side of things, I love Alpha Flies. I like Vapor Flies pretty good, but I'm more of an Alpha Fly person. So as far as trail goes, Solomon. The Sense 5s. I got the Sense 5s right now. I love the Solomon trail shoes. That's my go-to on the trail.
Never tried those. How do you manage your social media presence now since you're, getting bigger and more followers and all that?
Man, I'm trying to be a little bit more creative with content that I share. I'm trying to just say yes to different podcasts. Like I think just growing my audience by inserting myself into different communities and everything, something that's really important. And then also too, like again, like I was saying a few minutes ago, it's really important for me to share my story. It's important for me to talk about what I've went through and where I'm at today, because so many people are. I heard this quote. It said, "Behind every smiling face is a secret suffering that you know nothing about." And so, whenever I get on a podcast, I try to be as vulnerable and as open as I possibly can, because somebody's probably going through something. Everybody's going through something. And so if I can provide some inspiration by sharing my story, I want to do that. My sister passed away. She can't be here. It's important for me to share my story, for me to help as many people like myself, like her, as I possibly can, and try to pull people out of the trenches, try to pull people out of the mud. So podcasts are really important to me. Just sharing my athletes, my coaching, Lions Den Fitness. I love celebrating my athletes and celebrating their hard work and everything. And so I'm big on doing a lot of that. Also too, I've been getting into more traveling and pacing a lot of my runners. So that's something that I do. I'll be going to Chicago Marathon to watch. I think I got seven runners doing Chicago. I've got 5 doing New York City. I'm going to be at both of those races. So getting some behind the scenes shots and trying to get some videographers to come to the races so we can share like what we do as a team, what I do as a coach. That's important to me. We've also got a team event coming up where I'm going to hire a videographer. So just like bringing people into what I do. It's not like creating content. I'm just sharing what I'm already doing and have a camera there. And so just being authentic, man, and sharing some inspiration where I can and trying to get people to laugh. My wife will make little reels making fun of me a lot of times. Like what it's like to live with me and see me training. And it's pretty funny. So yeah, man, I'm just trying to check all the boxes and just be authentic as I possibly can, honestly.
Love it.
Perfect. All right, my last question is: do you believe you can be the start of the Cherokee running community in your area?
Oh yeah, I seen that, and I realized that the other day. Um, you know, I went to a running camp at Gadua Mound, so they were hosting a camp at Western Carolina University. They brought 92 athletes representing 20 or 32 states. I think it was 26 or 32 states. Anyways, we've got several runners from the community that are running collegiately now. But I realize that there's a need. Like we've got so many good runners up and coming, and there's a need to help them transition over once they get out of high school and college. And then there's also people like me that maybe they're walking the streets right now, or maybe they're in one of the men's homes in Cherokee, or at the men's home in Cherokee, or they're going to come through our men's home. And so creating a running community here for all of those reasons is going to be really important to me. And I want to host my own running camp here in Cherokee, and having the support and growing like who I know over the past several years and getting people involved and helping make that a success is really important to me. And I want one of these young kids to look at me ultimately and say, that inspires me and makes me want to take it even further. That inspires me, makes me want to be the next Olympian. And so I definitely want to just kind of step into more purpose with my running and giving back to the community.
Yep, that's good.
Well, Kallup, man, thank you so much for sharing your story. And, obviously you opened up about quite a bit, and Matt even did at the end, which is unusual for Matt. I'm proud of him.
Really just sit back and listen.
But, ultimately, like, you're on a really important journey for yourself.
Yeah.
And we want to follow you and help you in any way we can and support you. So, we'll try to get you back on here. Me and you could message a little bit after this in the next week or two and try to schedule something for February. Go ahead and get you on there and make sure we can support you any way we can. And the listeners with your that's a big run, man. It's a long journey, and I can't wait to watch you do it. But we want to be able to support you in any way we can. And I just want to tell you from us, it's been really cool just to learn your story and learn your journey and the things that you've endured for so many years. And it's just truly amazing to see where you're at. And we can't wait to see the things that you're going to do. And I hope that we get to see you in the future at an event. I'll get to see you in August. I'm kind of stoked about that. I had no idea that y'all were running the Backyard Ultra, or your wife is. So that's going to be really cool. But we got to definitely get you down to a race and sometime in Tennessee and let you run with some of the community around here and get to know you.
For sure, man. I'm really looking forward to meeting you guys in August. And again, I appreciate y'all prodding me, making sure that I get on this podcast and share my story. And it's been crazy the last few weeks, but I'm glad we got this done. I appreciate the opportunity, and we're so close together, man. We're going to have to schedule just a weekend long run on the trails or something sometime.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Well, Kallup, man, we'll leave you be so that you can go have your dinner. I know you've not ate, and it's almost 9 p.m.
You're right.
Matt's not ate either. So thank you. If you don't care, when we end the call, stay on for just a second. I'll go over a couple of things, but thank you so much for your time, man. And one last thing. Do you have any questions for us?
No, I don't think I have anything.
Awesome, man. Well, Kallup, again, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, definitely.
Amazing story, brother. Absolutely just amazing. Truly inspirational, and also at the same time, just hard. I mean, the fact that you've continued to fight and show the grit you've had throughout life shows why you're going to be a great endurance runner and why you're going to succeed at some of these things, because that's a long, hard journey, man. That's over 20 years. And it's truly just been a battle for you. And you're much stronger and much better now than you've probably ever been in your whole life. And it's cool to see where you're at, and can't wait to see what you're going to do.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate the support, the love, and can't wait to come back.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for your
Thanks,
time, Kallup.
All right, man. Talk to you guys soon.
See you, man.